Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. We will continue from where we left off the last time. So we are still in the big topic of definite and indefinite words. An-nakiratu wal-ma'rifatu. An-nakiratu is indefinite and al-ma'rifa are definite. So what we mean by that is you know what or who it is you're speaking about. And we said that there are 7 ways in which a word that is nakira can become ma'arifa. And we went through the first, which is al-mu'arraf bi alif wa lam, the thing that has been made definite by putting the definite article alif and lam in front, which means the. Ad-damir, pronouns. Al-alam, proper names. Ismul ishara, demonstrative pronouns. Today we do lesson 5, which is relative pronouns, and probably al-mudaf ila ma'rifa, the thing that has been possessed by someone that is known or something that's known. But we'll have to do a possession by itself after that so that you can understand the topic better. And 7, an-nakiratul maqsudatu bin nida, the indefinite thing that is intended by an address. What we mean here by address, calling it. So for example, I address you, I say, oh such and such, call your name, and that makes it definite. So we go down to page 28. And we did all of these already, of course. Oh, I think I passed it. Relative pronouns. Al-ismul mawsulu. Al-ismul mawsulu. The way you pronounce this is a little technical, but I'll show you. The hamza is pronounced because it's hamzatul wasl. It's written as an alif, but it's really a hamza. And you only pronounce it when you start with it. And we're starting here, so we say a. And then the lam there has sukoon. We're supposed to say al, but we don't say that. Why? Because the next hamza is also hamzatul wasl in the word ism. Ism, I, is hamzatul wasl. So we take that kasra from the hamza and put it on the lam, and we say al-ismu, 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 and then al-mawsulu. But then of course when we join, we don't pronounce the a, we say al-ismul mawsulu. That's the relative pronouns. And what is meant by relative pronouns are words like the one who did such and such, that which you use for such and such, and what, for instance. So I'll just give you the examples. So we have al-asma'ul mawsula, asma'ul mawsula. Oh, well, al-asma would be better. Let's put our al-asma'ul mawsulatu. So we have singular, dual, plural. We have masculine and feminine. And there is no first, second, and third person for relative pronouns. It's the same regardless of whether we're talking about ourselves, to someone, or about someone. Alladhi. Alladhi. It means the one who, or the thing which. Singular. Alladhi. For example, if I were to say صلى الرجل الذي دخل المسجد. صلى الرجل الذي دخل المسجد. The man prayed. Which man? الذي دخل المسجد. So now we define the man, so it makes it definite. So if you want to know which man prayed, it's the one that entered the masjid. That's an example. Dual is, instead of alladhi is singular, alladhani. Alladhani. For example, دخل الرجلان اللذان أو صلى الرجلان اللذان دخل المسجد. And that's a little technical because we did dual in many words that are not obvious when you speak it. صلى صلى الرجلان, that the two men prayed. اللذان, the two who دخلا they entered al-masjid. But when we say دخلا al-masjid, we don't pronounce the alif because it is eradicated when you join the word al-masjid. So if we were to repeat these examples, maybe I'll just go ahead and write them, make it easier for you. If we were to say دخل sorry صلى الرجل الذي دخل المسجد دخل المسجد. Yeah, so should I put in the vowels for that? I probably would, just to make it easy for you. Sol, la. But when you join, we put a shadda here. So we say Sallar, Ra, Ju, Lu. And then we don't pronounce the alif because of the fact that we join. Sallar, Raju. I'm pointing with my finger. That wouldn't work. Sallar rajulul ladhi. And then we say the, put a kasra here. Da, kha, lal. Put a sukun on the lam. Mas, ji, da. صلى الرجل الذي دخل المسجد. And the way we translate, the man prayed, the one who entered the masjid. But when we translate, we'll say the man who entered the masjid prayed, to make sense in English. So, but literally, the man prayed, the one who entered the masjid. But when we translate, we'll have to, change the syntax. See, that's very important in translating language. When the syntax is different, you cannot follow it. You cannot follow the syntax in translation.
Sure.
You have to translate the message, not the syntax nor the words.
Sure.
And that's a mistake a lot of translators make. Now, if your intention is to teach language, maybe that's one thing. But if your intention is to translate the text, like we have it translating the Quran, for instance, sometimes people make the mistake that they stick to the syntax. But the structure is different. We put the verb before the subject in Arabic. We don't do that in English. We normally say, the man prayed. We don't say prayed the man. But here, literally, it's prayed the man. The one entered the masjid. Yeah. But in English, that wouldn't slice it. We'll have to say the man who entered the masjid prayed.
Right.
Now we can copy this sentence just because of laziness, and slip it in here, and then modify it to suit dual. So if we were to say Salla, and in Arabic, even though the subject is dual, if the verb precedes it, the verb remains singular. So we'll say Salla. So we're not going to change this to they prayed. We'll say he prayed. And then we say Rajulan. Rajulani, meaning the two men. Salla Rajulani. The two men prayed. Alladhani. Allah. Oh, sorry, remove that. The Thani. Alladhani. And now we'll, because of the fact that this verb is not preceding the subject, we have to make it dual. Dakhala, and we put an alif here. See that? So this one has to be made dual. So we say صلى الرجلان اللذان دخل المسجد. When I was explaining this before I wrote it, I told you that we don't pronounce this alif. We don't say dakhala because we join to the lam. We say dakhala al-masjid. So that alif is only seen when it's written or if you stop there. So we could have said صلى الرجلان. We could have said صلى الرجلان اللذان دخلا. The two men who entered prayed. Now we pronounce the alif. But if we join through, we say صلى الرجلان اللذان دخلا المسجد. Of course, I pronounce the fatha in masjid just to teach you that it has a fatha. But normally in Arabic language, we stop with a sukoon on the last letter. So when we stop, we imagine there is a sukoon here. So we should say صلى الرجلان اللذان دخل المسجد, and we don't pronounce the fatha because it's at the ending, it's the last letter. However, I pronounce it just so that you know, because that has fatha because it's the object of the verb dakhala. But you study that in its own time. So let's copy this sentence here to plural also, and then we'll modify it. We'll say, so if we make it plural by changing the word ar-rajulu to ar-rijalu, ar-rijalu. We gotta take away the dhamma there also and put a fatha. صلى الرجال. The men prayed. And like I told you, we don't change the word صلى to صلوا because it precedes the subject. When the verb precedes the subject, it remains singular. But this you learn in its own time. I'm just explaining why here. And then we say الذين. We make it plural by adding on the letter na. الذين. صلى الرجال الذين. And now we'll have to make the word dakhala plural because there is no subject coming after it. It's the object coming after it. So we say dakhalu. Let's put a dhamma here. Dakhalu. And then we put an alif. An alif. And we say dakhalu. There's supposed to be a sukoon here. But we don't pronounce it when we join through. Why? We will go straight from the dhamma to the lam. And we say صلى not rajul. I was supposed to change that kasra, that fatha to a kasra. صلى الرجال الذين دخلوا المسجد. I'll repeat that again. صلى الرجال الذين دخلوا المسجد. And just like before, when you stop, you would normally say masjid. But I just say masjida so that you know. صلى الرجال الذين دخلوا المسجد. Now if we were to copy it here, we'll have to make some more changes. So let's go ahead and do it anyway, so you'll see the changes. So I'm copying the sentence from above to down here, but we got to change it to make it feminine. So instead of saying صلى, we say صلت. صلت. And instead of saying الرجل, we'll have to change it. Instead of the man, we'll have to say the woman, right? Right. Yeah. المرأة. The woman. And then we would actually, a strange thing happened. We will put a kasra when we pronounce this ta, let me put it back and explain to you. So here we have the lam has a sukoon. So in Arabic language, you cannot have two sukoons meeting. We have a sukoon here. This hamza is not pronounced, it's hamzatul wasl, and we have the lam with a sukoon. We call this iltiqa sakinain. Iltiqa sakinain, two sukoons meeting. Well, in the Arabic language, that's not allowed. So what you have to do, you have to put a haraka on the first one to remove that two sukoons meeting. So we normally put a kasra here. And the way we would explain that kasra, the word we say for explaining the vowels is i'rab. The way we'll do the i'rab, we'll say حركت التاء بالكسرة للتخلص من التقاء الساكنين. That the ta was given a kasra, given the haraka of a kasra, to remove two sukoons meeting. So that kasra is not asliya, it's not an original kasra. The origin is sukoon. So let me just do this for you technically so you'll hear it. It sounds very interesting. So when we do an analysis of this, we will say صلت فعل ماض. It's a past tense verb. مبني على السكون, built on a sukoon. It's structured that way. منع من ظهوره, you were prevented from seeing it. اشتغال المحل بالكسرة, the position being occupied by a kasra, للتخلص من التقاء الساكنين, to avoid having two sukoons meeting. It's kind of a technical thing. I'll say that again in Arabic. You'll hear it. Maybe you'll hear it some other time when people do what's called i'rab, Arabic linguistic analysis. So we'll say صلت فعل ماض مبني على السكون منع من ظهوره اشتغال المحل بالكسرة للتخلص من التقاء الساكنين. That صلت is a past tense verb that is built with on a sukoon, meaning that there is a sukoon at the ending, but we were prevented from seeing that sukoon because the place is occupied by a kasra to prevent two sukoons meeting.
Oh. Okay.
Yeah. صلت المرأة, the woman prayed, and then instead of saying الذي, we have to change it to this, التي. So we'll say, instead of saying الذي, we say التي. And then we put the yeah there with sukoon, التي, and then we have to make دخل, دخلت. And then the same thing will happen here. Instead of putting a sukoon, we will put a kasra so that we don't have two sukoons meeting. Otherwise, we'll have the sukoon from dakhalat al-masjida, and we'll have to say something like dakhalat al-masjida, and that wouldn't work. Dakhalat, dakhalat, that don't work in Arabic. You have to put a vowel. So we'll say صلت المرأة التي دخلت المسجد. And of course, we would normally stop with a sukoon, but I just pronounce it so you know the vowel. But the way you would say this in classical Arabic, if you wanted to say the woman who entered the masjid prayed, you would say صلت المرأة التي دخلت المسجد. So now we're saying that this makes the woman a definite woman, a specific woman. Why? Because we're saying the woman who prayed is the one who entered the masjid. And then if we were to copy this, instead of starting over from the one before, and we make it dual now, and we say صلت, we wouldn't make this verb dual because of the fact that it precedes, the subject comes after it. And then we will say صلت المرأتان. We have to change that ta to this ta. The two women. صلت المرأتان. And then we'll say اللتان. Excuse me. Take out the kasra there also. اللتان. اللتان, the two who. And then we have to change dakhalat to dakhalata. Dakhalata. The two of them entered. Al-masjida. Now you're going to learn to conjugate verbs at their own time. I'm just doing it here as an example of the utilizations of the relative pronouns or al-asma al-mawsula. And of course, I want to make the sentences grammatically sound also. So the way we would read this, we would say صلت المرأتان اللتان دخلتا المسجد. دخلتا. And we don't pronounce this alif. Only if we stop, we will pronounce it, we'll say dakhalata. But when you join, the alif is not pronounced. And the way you would say this in classical Arabic, صلت المرأتان اللتان دخلتا المسجد. And you'll put a sukun on the dal. And then feminine, for those, plural, let's use that same example and we'll modify it to see the difference. And this, I'm doing this because I'm lazy, but also you can see how it's structured. So we'll change the word mar'a. So the word mar'a doesn't have a plural. And interesting, you have to come up with a completely new word. That's a very strange thing. Singular and dual for women is mar'a, and the plural is nisa. And the singular for nisa doesn't exist. It's mar'a. It's a strange word. It's completely different letters, yeah, different formation. So we'll say anni, sa, fatha, alif, النساء. صلت النساء. So we don't say صلينا because remember the verb precedes the subject and it remains singular. صلت النساء التي. We have to change التي to اللائي or اللاتي. So we'll just use one of them and I'll probably just cheat this way. Copy that. Change allati with allai. So we'll say صلت النساء اللائي. And now we have to change dakhalat. We have to make it plural because the subject doesn't come after it. It's the object. Al-masjid is the object. The woman entered the masjid. The woman is the subject, entered is the verb, and the masjid is the object. It's the thing she entered. So now because the verb is standing by itself, it's not coming just before the subject, we have to make it plural. So the way you make it plural is very strange. Dakhalna. Dakhalna is plural for feminine, and that you'll study in its own time. So dakhala, just to do the verb alone by itself, even though that's not our subject right now. Dakhala, he entered. Dakhala, the two of them, two male entered. Dakhalu, a group of male entered. Dakhalat, with a sukun. Remember we put that kasra there because you don't want to have two sukuns meeting. Dakhalat, she entered. Dakhalata, the two of them, two female entered. Dakhalna, a group of female entered. And this, of course, you would apply to every verb. So if you were to use the verb, for example, akala, we would say akala, huwa akala, he ate, huma akala, the two of them ate, hum akalu, they ate, a group of men. For a woman, we will say hiya akalat, she ate. We will say about two of them, huma, two women, akalata, and we will say about a group of women, hunna akalna. Hunna akalna. Yeah. Anyway, the way we would read this is صلت النساء اللائي دخلنا المسجد. And of course, in classical Arabic, we will put a sukun at the ending there. Also, ism al-mawsula, there are two more that we would learn, ma and man. Ma, what or which. What or which. How do we do that? We have to change to English. that kind of which. Uh, ma. So sometimes the word ma, which is used to mean what in a question, is used to mean uh, what in as a noun, not as a harf, not as a particle. So, for instance, I would say uh, ma jaa bik, what brought you here. Ma here is used to ask a question. But if I were to say akaltu ma fi yadi, I ate what is in my hand. Now what becomes a noun in this usage here? And that's the example, and it means alladhi. أكلت ما في يدي أكلت الذي في يدي. I ate the thing in my hand. I ate what is in my hand. And man also is ism al-mawsula, but it means who. So this is for inanimate objects, and this is for, I should say, presumably inanimate objects, because things have life even though we cannot detect and realize those life. Um, and man is for animate objects. So that's relative pronouns. To summarize that quickly, when a person or a thing is followed by a relative pronoun, it defines that thing, so it makes it a specific thing, so it becomes mu'arraf. The example we use here is with the man or the woman or the two men or two women or men or women who entered the masjid. And we would say, just to read the first example, صلى الرجل الذي دخل المسجد, the man who entered the masjid prayed. Now we know which man prayed. It's a specific man. And that was accomplished by the utilization of ismul mawsula, al ismul mawsul, alladhi.